Done by Noon podcast. Today, Chris and I are talking about respecting the seasons of life.
You're listening to the Done by Noon podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs who want to achieve more by noon than others in a full day. Serial entrepreneur Dave Ruel and his co-host Chris Lopez share the strategies that will help you optimize your productivity, performance, and lifestyle so you can reach new heights in your business and life. So if you're ready to become the most efficient and effective entrepreneur you know, you're in the right place. Welcome to the show.
This episode is brought to you by the Epic Planner, the first planner made for the entrepreneurial brain. It's easy to fill your day with busy work. You feel like you're getting a lot done. But if you don't make time for bigger projects, you're just spinning your wheels and hurting your business. The Epic Planner is backed by a complete system to strategically plan your next 90 days. Break down projects into actionable bite-sized pieces. Optimize your work week and implement sustainable performance habits in the process. To learn more about the Epic Planner, go to www.epic.co. That's EFFIC.co. And use coupon code PODCAST at checkout to receive 10% off your order. Now, back to Dave and Chris.
Lopez, my man. You're muted. You're still muted. I can see you, but you are muted on the podcast. Yeah, you get to unmute yourself. There you go.
There we go. I didn't realize I had to unmute myself. I thought the host, the main admin.
No, I know. But here's the thing, and for our listeners, and we use Zencastr to record. I can see Chris. There's the video option now, which is cool. But the thing is that when I mute you, and I usually mute Chris when I run the intro, but this I cannot unmute you, and it happens all the time. It's actually a pain. I think the admin should be able to. So Zencastr people, if you hear us, let me unmute. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. It's really busy. And I hate saying that when people ask me, "Hey, how are you?" Oh, I'm so busy.
I know.
I actually am quite busy these days. So, but I'm happy to be on the podcast. I'm glad we made time for it because I think we're due for a catch up.
Yeah, because people Chris and I batch record our episodes most of the time, and this time we had quite a bit of we had many episodes recorded in advance, and for the past few weeks, there was obviously we were both busy, and also been traveling, man. So there's two things. Travels. You went to Mexico City.
I went to Mexico City, and it was fantastic. It was the easiest border crossing in these COVID. It wasn't even like there was a COVID pandemic. It was
really, yeah.
It was crazy. Yeah. Do you want the backstory of why I have to go?
Yeah. So why did you go and how's so first of all, why did you go? And second, how's Mexico City? Because I hear two sides about Mexico City. I hear how awesome that is, but I also hear about how crazy that is. So I just want to have your
All right. So living here in Costa Rica, my family and I are in the process of residency, which means that if we are in the process, we have all the papers necessary. We're filing all the papers. So we're waiting for immigration to give us the final word on us obtaining residency here in Costa Rica. So legally, from an immigration standpoint, I'm allowed to stay past a 90-day tourist visa that's on my passport because they give you a 90-day limit to be able to be here. So I can go past those 90 days from an immigration standpoint. However, we own a vehicle here. We have a car here, a nice 4x4 that gets us up and down the mountain that we live in. But in order for me to drive with a Canadian driver's license or an Ontario driver's license, I have to have an authorized passport stamp, i.e. my driver's license is attached to the 90 days on the passport stamp. So even though I'm in the process of getting residency and from an immigration standpoint, I'm legally allowed to be here, if I go past those 90 days, I'm not allowed to drive my car with a Canadian driver's license. So then you may ask, well, why don't you get a Costa Rican driver's license? Well, I can't get a Costa Rican driver's license until I get residency. So the way things work here is that, and then the fine for being pulled over with a foreign driver's license and an invalid passport stamp is they take your plates away, and I think it's like a $500 fine. You can't drive your car, and then the
You think
process in
you can
order.
bribe your way out of it for a few $100?
I wouldn't be surprised if you could, but I have not. Now I've every time I've gotten pulled over so far, there has been, like a green bill attached to the driver's license whenever I pass it over to the officer
Hmm.
on the other side. I'm not going to lie. But for that particular thing, the process in getting your license plate back is arduous. It can take anywhere from 10 days to 3 weeks to get back. And it's just not something I'm
It's just a
interested in
pain.
doing. Right.
A
So
lot of
basically,
friction.
yeah. So basically, I had to leave the country by myself to go to Mexico City to reset my passport stamp so that I can drive. And so that's what I did. I went to Mexico City, and it was like, okay, first of all, that was the easiest border crossing I've ever experienced in my life. Like, you wouldn't even have known. Like, I've had more trouble, or like the level of questions I've had getting into my home country of Canada
Hmm.
more than getting into Mexico City during a pandemic. I walk into Mexico City, I go to the border officer, I say hello, good afternoon, and he looks at my passport and he says, "Hey, you're Canadian," and then stamp. And that was it. Like, he didn't ask me anything else. I was like, "Really?"
That's the beauty of traveling with a Canadian passport, man. It's like,
Yeah.
you're Canadian, you're a good guy.
Yeah,
Automatically,
exactly.
you're a good guy. You
Yeah.
know?
And so I got in. But it was Mexico City was it was really great, man. Like, it was amazing. And you forget, because I'm like, it's my Canadian ignorance or my North American ignorance, but you forget that you're in North America, because I'm so used to going to the grocery store here and spending, like, I think I may have mentioned this before, but it's like, if I want to buy a bag of Lay's potato chips, not that I eat that, but just like from a context perspective, if I buy Lay's potato chips, a big bag of Lay's potato chips here in Costa Rica, it costs me $5.
Mm.
Whereas when you go to Canada, or when I go back to Toronto, I mean, that something like that is 99 cents Canadian.
Yeah.
And so when I go to Mexico City and I see a bag of Lay's potato chips for $1.49, I forget that I'm in North America. And it's like, oh, that's right, it's cheap.
Yeah, because
So,
you have all the trade, like, the trade agreements
right, the
between
trade agreement.
the
Yeah.
countries. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. Yeah, you're right. And but how's Mexico? So Mexico City is what, one of the largest cities in the world. Humongous.
One of the most metropolitan cities in the world. And I stayed in a really nice neighborhood. It's called the Roma Norte neighborhood.
Okay.
And that is, it's probably considered, like, if you wanna compare it to, you would compare it to, maybe, if you've ever been to New York, you would compare it to, like, Greenwich Village, like that kind of area. So I strategically booked the hotel that was in the closest proximity to all the coffee shops, because so when I travel, that's what I do. I try to find the best coffee shops, and I book a hotel, like, within the vicinity of all the best coffee shops, because when you do that, you usually get into the best neighborhoods as well.
So that's
So,
an indicator. The most coffee shops you have in an area, that means it's one of the best neighborhoods.
well, the most third wave coffee. So third wave is like, where you get the stushy baristas that are a little bit snobby,
Yes.
but they know what they're doing with
Gotcha.
the coffee. Like, yeah. So you basically Google. What I do is, my trick is, I Google third wave coffee Mexico City,
Gotcha.
and then I find all the shops and I plant them out on a map. Or there's usually a map that shows you all the shops, and then I find the hotel within the vicinity of that.
So you know that it's going to be a good neighborhood because they have the third one.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I
And then
like it.
so and then I collect Marriott points as well. So I book the Marriott closest, or the Marriott property within that, so that I can add to my Marriott status.
So so did you feel like how's Mexico City compared to, let's say, I don't know, like, does it have more of a closer to a North American feel, or is it like still a lot influenced by Central South America? Like,
No, 100%. It's more North American than you would believe. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah, I honestly felt that like, I likened it to a combination between New York City and Barcelona.
gotcha.
So there were walk streets everywhere. like
Yeah.
cobblestone walk streets, really nice, lots of green within the concrete, which was really cool.
Okay.
Um, People were out dining like COVID wasn't even a thing. So there were outdoor cafes and everything, and everybody was dining. There were a lot of active people. So people out walking their dogs, people going on runs, like um, older men, like guys in their 60s or whatever, going for a walk with their buddy, and they're talking about, whatever the day or however they spent it or everything. It was really, really cool. Like, you could tell that like COVID was present, like, or what we experienced in North America was present in that every time you went into a store or a restaurant, there was somebody at the front who would take your temperature and give you
Mm.
a squirt of hand sanitizer. And then you would go about your business in the restaurant or in the shop or whatever. But that was the only thing. Other than that, there was the odd person wearing a mask, but everybody maintained enough
No.
distance that they
Gotcha.
weren't walking around with a mask on,
Yeah.
but you had to put a mask on when you went into a store or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, but it
So
was
the mask. So yeah. So the mask on when you get into a store, things like that. But other than that, like,
it just felt like a normal day.
and you felt like people were just going along with it and like
Yeah.
respecting social.
Yep.
See, that's the thing, man. Like, it's exactly the same here. Like in New Brunswick mostly, but like where I live, it's, yeah, you need to wear a mask when you go to grocery store and
Right.
like things like that. But other than that, like, people kind of respect social distancing. Like, we have a kind of a bubble system, kind of like, so it doesn't get out of control. But we've been keeping that too. People have been respecting that like most of the time, and
Right.
it's been good here. And I hear, like, I don't like, well, it, like in Ontario, and we have friends in common in Ontario, they are going insane with that COVID thing, like because of the lockdowns and all the political BS that's attached
Oh
to
my
it.
god. Yeah. It's what it is, what I'm noticing, because I still keep a tap on what's going on in Ontario because our
Yeah.
oldest daughter, AJ, lives there. But to me, it just seems like a lot of fear mongering going on.
100%.
Like, it's just like, why are you trying to scare the shit out of people all the time?
Yeah.
Like, you're not giving anybody any hope.
I know.
So
I think it's like, and I talked to my friend Vince, and Vince is like, he's for civil disobedience and shit.
yeah,
Like, because he's frustrated, and he's like, it's a totally. And I want to talk to him. It's like, man, it looks like you're in a different country. Like,
yeah,
it's a very different reality here. Like, we don't have that. Like, it does. Like, it's a totally different. And yeah, it was like, it's just. And he was saying, it's like, people here want less cases, or they want more freedom, so they're willing to accept more, you know
more
to accept
restrictions,
like
more.
lockdowns and shit. And
Yeah,
so the political party place understands that, so it
for
gives people
sure.
what they want, and they just put things stricter, and it had become, like, I think, a political thing at this point, and it's sad, if you
Well,
ask me.
because the opposition are playing the exact opposite of it, right?
Yeah, but I mean, that's just, that like another, you know another example that politics don't put people first. They're always going to put their own fucking interest first. And I mean, I ventured a little bit into politics and that world for a little bit. Like, I really, like, I don't did I talk to you about that? I helped, like, political party here in
I
New
think you did.
Brunswick,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
with their communications. And I was like, this is just not real life.
yeah.
Because I was like, I really wanted to understand, you want to make an impact, you want to help the community. I was like, you know what? I'm not a political guy. I don't have any affiliation. It's like, I mildly follow politics or get involved with it.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
But your systems
I'm
are
gonna
archaic.
go inside,
Yeah.
and I had the opportunity to really go inside, and it's not large scale politics. It's like, provincial politics, and we're not a big province here. It's not even 1 million people in the province, but it's like, gosh, man, it didn't feel like real life. It didn't feel like it is really a game. It's a kind of it's an alternate reality.
Yeah.
Like, really what it is. Like, they see the world from a different lens, like from total different perspective.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? With my lens as an entrepreneur, I don't see that. And I see that too when we want to do things like locally, projects, things like that. Like, it's like a foreign language. Yeah, like, as an entrepreneur, I speak a foreign language.
For
Like
sure.
my
Because we're all
behavior.
about implementation and about taking action and doing stuff right away. Whereas I think on the political scene or even on the corporate scene, like there's so much red tape, so much bureaucracy, so many obstacles to go over to be able to get anything done.
But
So,
I think corporate, like there's a lot of politics in corporate. That's the thing, you
oh
know.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
it reminds me a lot of it. There's a lot of useless stuff that you can do in 2 minutes that take 2 months.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what? The one thing I forgot, because this is really important, Dave. This is important.
Yes.
The one thing I forgot to tell you about Mexico City, the food scene is next level.
So I heard. And I wanted to ask you, and then I forgot. But I heard, food wise, it's absolutely mind blowing.
Next level. I mean, even the street food, Dave. Like
Mhm.
so there was one day that I booked off because I use this as a work trip to hole myself up in a hotel and just get a ton of work done, which I did. But there was one day where it was like, okay, if the restrictions aren't too bad, I'm going to go explore the city. So I went to go explore the city, and I went for a walk. And so I figured I was going to the artisanal market, which was about a 45-minute walk from my hotel. And so I would walk, and on every corner, there was either like a taco stand or some type of street food stand. So every time, I hate like a pig. Every time I passed one of these stands, I would ask them in Spanish. I would say, like, what's your best thing? Like, what's your specialty? And they would make me their specialty, and like literally like a fish taco or like some taco with like meat that's been soaking and marinating for 24 hours. It would cost me like $1
Wow.
for it, and it was insane. Like it was
Mm.
crazy. And then my last night, I was overrun with pesos because they don't take American dollars there, and I'm not gonna use Costa Rican colones there, obviously. So I had to go to the bank machine to take out pesos, and so I had some extra money that I don't know when I'm coming back to Mexico City. I'm just gonna like let's spend it. So I went out to this taco house called Orinoco, and it's been there for almost 100 years, like 70 years or whatever.
Wow.
And so I go there and I ordered five tacos. I ordered a campechano, which is like a Mexican pizza on a tortilla, and they put like beans, and then they put a combination of like meat and cheese, so like carnitas and
It's like
steak.
an open quesadilla, kind of.
Yeah, kind of like that, but you're supposed to fold it and kind of eat it like a pizza. And they put like lettuce, and then they put more cheese, and then you can put your hot
Oh
sauce on it. So
man.
I had a campechano. So I had five tacos, a campechano, and then there was this dessert where they made like churro donuts or churro like little churro buns, and they would serve it on a sausage plate. And it was a churro bun and then ice cream, and then another churro bun and then more ice cream, and then another churro bun and then more ice cream. And it was like probably 7 layers all on this little takeout hot dog container thing. I had that, and then I had two San Pellegrinos. So 5 tacos, one campechano, two San Pellegrino, and this like amazing dessert. $7.
Oh gosh. Did you
Seven
sprinkle?
dollars, Dave.
Did you sprinkle sea salt on your churros and ice
All
cream?
over everything. Everything. I sprinkled season. $7, man.
Wow.
So, but it
Insane.
was so good. Like the quality, and like every restaurant there has like an old Mexican lady making tortilla in the front. Like you can see her making like fresh tortillas. So it was like the food. We have to go, Dave. This
Yeah,
has to
man.
be a done by noon trip.
Yeah. We'll be done by noon because we're gonna be like food hung. We're gonna have a food
Back by
hungover
noon.
before noon every day. Oh man, I
So,
love it. Well, good man. I love it. We're gonna keep like the volleyball thing for next episode because I think like right now people are probably hungry and like enough
yeah.
food. We're going to talk about respecting the seasons of life, and that it pretty much is following discussion we had earlier, and but respect of where you are in your life at this moment, and the seasons like the seasons where it's not going to be like everything's going to be the same all the time. There's things happening. There's, I don't know, your mood changes. Is your mood changing actually with the actual season? Well, I know you're in Costa Rica right now, but like, I mean, when you were in Toronto, like, would you have a different vibe or mood depending on the season?
Absolutely. Yeah. I found that during the spring and the fall, I'd be more of like in a hustle kind of mode. When
Mm.
it was the winter time,
Yeah.
I was a little, I found that I was always a little stressed in the winter, but it seemed like unnatural. Like it seemed like I should have slowed down, but I was going against what my body wanted to do.
Mm.
And then in the summertime was when I would have a little bit more energy and feel a lot better about life and about myself. I remember the summer times being very high energy and like, you know, just like uplifting and everything. But that's what I remember.
Mm.
And
So
so I
I
think part of the reason why we moved here was because we could have summer.
so there
Yeah.
you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you feel it affected that, or like you feel a little bit more stable because of that, or?
Well, we were chatting off camera just before we started recording, and I was telling you about all the projects that we had going on. And I think part of the reason why we have all these projects going on and is because we feel this abundant amount of energy, and there's no way to slow down. So now we have to purposely slow down because it's summertime all the time. Like we have to be very intentional by slowing down. But what about you? Because I know that you've been going through some stuff.
Yeah, it's like lately it's been, well, I gotta say, like it's been I would say a few years that I felt like, a little bit pressured, a little bit like there's always something that I have to do. It is always that kind of pressure on my shoulders. And, we've been like Epic, we've pivoted a couple of times, with the model of what we wanted to do with it, and then wrote the book and started a certification and got away from coaching and, all these things. So there was always, some level of activity. And I realized that, even though I enjoy, quite a bit of freedom in my life, I realized that I'll always feel kind of that pressure. And in the book, in Done by Noon book, I talk about self-respect. And I was like, bro, you are not respecting yourself. You are like, and I'm going to read you, actually, I'm going to read a part of the book. And hold on. So let me find, there you go. It says self-respect is also honoring the process as you progress along your personal and entrepreneurial journey. Your visions and ambitions need to be aligned with your core values and truth. You need the courage to understand who you are, honor what you want, and work towards it. And I felt, that alignment to my values and my truth, there was that degree of misalignment. And it's not about the work that we do at Epic, like all the frameworks, everything we do, very proud of it and how we progress with it. But I don't know, like, but in my life in general, there was that adjustment needed. And my wife, Karine, who's very, like, she's a bit more, I have, a little bit woo woo on the side, but she's a little bit more woo woo than me. And she's like, so she's been going to that energy healer. She lives like about 90 minutes from our house.
Uh-huh.
And she's been there a couple of times. And she's like, yeah, it shakes me to my core and realizes me to my truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, and she's like, I feel like you need that right now. So I went, I was like, yeah, not thinking a lot of it. And you get there and, you talk with her and, we talk and she's like, then you go on the table and like, she does these like energy scans. She scans your body for energy clogs and it's woo. Okay. But she does that and she's like, and like there's things that people tell you and you're like, this, like, how do you, like, you should not tell me that, like you should not know these type of things, or and she really, like, I don't know, it felt like she understood what was going on, and like it felt good, a lot of energy healing. And after I was like, okay, well, let's see how how that continues in time. And I did that, and mostly I did that, and I didn't say that, but I one of the symptoms was that I had a hard time sleeping. I had insomnia like regularly. Like it was actually becoming a real problem. Waking up pretty much to something in the morning and not being able to go to bed until like again, 5:30, and the kids were up at like 6:30, right? It's just not manageable. And I don't want to be like, taking any type of pills or any type of, I don't want to be just put like a band-aid on it. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah. You want to get to the root of the problem.
yeah. So anyway, I don't know if I got to the root of the problem, but I realized that, something needs to be needed, and I'm going to try that. And it's been 2 weeks and I've been sleeping like a baby for 2 weeks, like really good. And my energy, man, like, when you know, like you feel you're carrying a lot of things on your back, and all of a sudden it's gone, and you're like, you know,
And you can breathe again.
I
Yeah.
feel like it. It's weird, and I cannot pinpoint what it is,
Uh-huh.
because it's not one thing. You know, it's like not one thing. I think it's a couple of things in my life over time that I've let that compounded. I guess I don't know. Like it's very very weird, but it feels like, and it's a good season right now. Like I feel like it's the spring too, and I don't know. It goes along with the season, I guess. But I realized like, whoa, okay. And you know, she told me like you need to learn how to really disconnect like a lot. Like you need to process. It's like you're a computer and like the beach ball is going and
Yeah.
the computer is slow because of that. And you know, I talk a lot about, you know, business detoxes and things like that. And I do a lot of things with Karine, but she's like, no, you got to spend like probably like 4 days or even like, you know, a minimum of 4 days by yourself. Like go rent a cabin in the woods. And, you know, I talk about it in the book too. I talk about the Bill Gates' Think Week. Like
Yep.
what he does, he goes for a week and it's like, you got to do the same type of things. And she's like, you should do that. Like, she's like, and you know, and intuitively, like she said what I was thinking. She's like, yeah, you should do that like when you transition from winter to spring and from when you transition from summer to fall,
Huh.
and or like fall to, you know, like that transition period where the leaves are like, you know, full colors and shit. Like it's like when that's transition in season that seems like energetically for you. And it's like, yeah, that's how I would do it. So now I'm going to implement that where I'm going to go book myself. And I told Corinne's like, I want to make it something like, you know, by myself, and you do the same too. So what we're going to do is like rent a cottage or a cabin or something for a week. And I
Yeah.
would go half the time, and then Corinne would go have like the other half. You know, we
Nice.
do our retreats together, like always, for
Uh-huh.
business detoxes. But this time we're gonna do, yeah.
By
So,
yourself.
yeah, and I've been taking things a little bit slowly too,
Hmm.
for the past couple of weeks, just like taking more time to think.
Yep.
And energetically, it's good. Mood wise, I mean, everything improves, right? And I'm getting actually more done. You know what I mean? But it's just a different pace or dealing with things differently, I would say. So yeah, man, I don't know. It just feels good.
Let me ask you this. Do you find that maybe, say, 10 years ago, your 10 years ago self would have been open to something as woo-woo to that as you are now? I mean, could that
Yeah.
be a reflection of the season of life that you're in right now? Maybe not so much like more on a macro level, right?
Nah, I've always been pretty open to weird shit I don't understand. Like I'm serious. Like it's you know, it's a part of things that, you know, like first of all, I don't understand a lot about a lot of things, you know, but the things that can, you know, that you cannot explain, but it works,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like
Bro, I live
stop.
in Costa Rica. This is the home of all the weird shit you don't understand
Yeah.
stuff.
No, but I mean, you know, it and I've always been open to it. I mean, I've worked with coaches or, you know, different people like, you know, Clayton Stedman, who's like very like a big fan of oh well, it's not it's kind of science, but Dr. David Hawkins, like the
Uh-huh.
power is this force, you know, the scale of consciousness, and I love that, like
Yeah.
because he was kind of a framework. Well, you know, I don't want to like, you know, sound like that. I'm not a religious guy, but you know, for a lot of people, for example, religion provides that type of structure and framework to get some answers that you don't have. You know what I mean? And then there's the element of faith attached to it too. But I'm not a religious guy. Like I don't, you know, I don't have, you know, faith in, you know, I would say a god or god or
Like a
whatever. Like
deity or a being.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like I
Yeah.
believe there's this like, yeah, something probably greater than us, but again, like there's a force bigger than us that we don't understand, and that's why I agree with. You know,
I
that's what
agree.
I believe in,
Same.
and it comes in the form that I cannot understand, and I'm like I surrendered, you know, to that, you know,
Yeah.
but and so I'm no I'm honestly I'm comfortable with all that stuff. Um, Yeah, I've been comfortable. The thing is listening to it and respecting that in some ways, where I realized that I was also trying to control, you know, a lot of things in my life. And the truth is, I'm, I mean, I work in an industry where I show people how to get structured. You know what I mean? I know I help people get organized and structured and like, showing ways to do it. And obviously I live that too. But
Yep.
sometimes like to an extent where I'm, when you over optimize shit,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
I felt like that's what it was. I was like, you know what, man, like you need to actually take a step back and actually come like surrender a little bit to, you know,
Yes,
to your
surrender.
thing. So this is when like, because here's the problem. When you do what I do, you're always in teaching mode. You're always in the teacher mode. You're always in I'll show the example mode where like because the people I teach to look up to you for that stuff.
Yep.
And I realized I never give myself, room to actually explore. Or, I always had the feeling that I needed to be in control of that.
Hmm.
So I purposely actually try to have less control now. So the control basically is like less control with my brain trying to rationalize things and more trusting my gut. That's what she says. Like, because you are, and she says, like, you process with your gut feeling, with your heart. Like, you have a binary system, and 100%. I've always, I'm going to be yes or no, and I don't know why, but I know,
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
a sixth sense. It's your intuition.
Yeah, but that's always been my decision process, and it never failed me. And I think until a few years ago, where actually I started processing things a lot more with my brain and making right, as stupid as it sounds, but that the problem is that when you do that, your brain protects you in some ways. Like it's a filter, and it doesn't trust your heart, as much, because your
Yep.
heart is not rational. Your heart is just like, it's a yes or no thing. You don't know why, but it's what it is. And I suppressed that. And it was not on purpose, but it was suppressing that. So I was like, I'm not going to think about doing my decisions rationally by overthinking it. I'm going to start thinking with my heart, like making decisions and going back to that. And I'm slowly relearning to do that, which there's an element of letting go that comes with it that's uncomfortable at first, but it's so good now because I feel like right now, see, the alignment comes back. I feel like my head was not aligned. My heart is always aligned. You know what I mean? My
Ooh,
my
yeah,
head
yeah.
thinks that, I'm aligned, but
Yep.
it's not. And yeah, man, it's woo. There's no framework to it, but for me, it's part of my self-respect too, of respecting first of all my season that I'm in, but also respecting my style. I
Yep.
was like, you know what, like that's what you need to when it comes to practicing what you preach, this is what you need to practice, not how overly optimized your schedule and your processes are, and it all came back to a little bit more, I'd say, mindset stuff than just frameworks. And yeah, I don't know, man, it just feels good.
Yeah, yeah. So the moral of the story is listen to your wife.
Oh man, this is always, that's a universal truth.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think this could be a book right there. 1,000 lessons, 1,000 lessons about truths about life and business, and then like every single thing ends with trust your wife,
Yeah.
listen to your wife.
Listen to
But
your
no,
wife.
Karine is good with that. I mean, she's a psychotherapist by trade. She
Right.
understands. She knows. Like, she's like, dude, she's like, and she pushed me. She's like, you cannot. You need to sleep. You need to like. That's like something's off. Go there. She was like, trust me. I was like, I trust you. I have no idea what it's gonna be. And I went, and I'm like, wow. Okay, I did. You don't know what you don't know, man.
Exactly.
And it
That's
was a
exactly it.
beautiful thing. And I think I'm gonna do that regularly now. I'm gonna go like maybe before my seasons, like maybe before my think weeks, maybe to recalibrate. But it felt actually really good. So Yeah, man. Respecting the seasons of life, that's one thing. And this again, like I think there's things that happen, in my life as well. Like there was a lot of how can I say that? A lot of grief. Like 2015, 2016, like I was grieving quite a bit, like with different things. I don't want to turn into like some kind of psychological
Like
you know
therapy session, but
therapy
no.
session.
But
But
I get it.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that, and I talked about it, but there was my the murder of my uncle in 2015, which affected me. There was some business fuckery with a business partner in 2015. Then selling by optimizers, which was a positive thing,
Yeah.
obviously, but it was still like grieving like my life changed quite a
Right.
bit in 2015, 2016, and I feel like and from there I just went on to like I had coaching, and then ethics started because of that, and things started like going fast, like without me controlling anything. And then yeah, and it felt, and she says like because all that happened, this is when your brain started taking over, because your brain was just protecting you. It was
Right.
protecting you from actually losing control or processing things that it was just protecting you.
You were
And
in
she's like,
survival mode.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's why you're feeling that feeling of heaviness all the time, and because you never let the time really to process that, like to actually, I do take vacations and shit, but it's another level of processing, I guess. So
Well, I think the other thing is that you're a serial entrepreneur, like you have been all of your life. And so, like, our natural instincts, or I'm sure your natural instinct is just to keep on going, to keep on going, to keep on going. Well, what's it
man,
like? Sold the business. Okay, what's next? Okay, we got Ethic. I got these planners. Okay, what's next? Okay, I want to write a book. You know what I
mhm,
mean? And it's just
yeah.
like go, 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 go. And there's no time to really have any downtime.
The creative, yeah, you're right. And it's actually, we're going to talk about knowledge, management systems and personal management and all. But the thing is that my greatest asset is create, like that I'm able to create, but it's also could be the my biggest problem is like I love creating a little bit too much sometimes, and it's
Yeah.
always the brain, like man, it's always active, there's always shit going on between my two ears, where I'm like, what? And it just, the hamster goes fast all the time,
Yeah.
and I have to respect that quite a bit more, respecting the entrepreneurial brain, but also like respecting, the yin and the yang. It's like my body, my heart needs to trust my brain, and my brain needs to trust my heart, and there needs to be some kind of harmony that happens between both, right? So right now, my heart, my head has been just overpowering everything. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? And I feel it. Like my head feels a lot lighter, and my heart feels a lot fuller and aligned. It's a weird thing, but
You look a lot more like Zen. Like
I
you're
it,
like we what we say here in Costa Rica is we say you're like very tranquilo. Like you're just like I'm
yeah,
good.
yeah.
You know, like you're at a good place. You're like
Yeah,
chill.
no,
Yeah.
it really, really shifted something, and I like that, and I feel like I'm back to more of a post 2015, 2016 pace, where I'm like, I don't have to think it, I
Yeah.
just feel it, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, I need just to go back to that state constantly, and I know when I do that, good things happen, right? So not that bad things happen when you think, but it's just it's not aligned. It's a bit shaky. When your car is not aligned properly, it's the wheel shakes.
Yep.
Well, it's a little bit like that. And when it's shaking for too long, it's tiring, right? And yeah, it felt like it, man. So I'm respecting that season.
Nice. That's good that you were able to recognize it before your body started to like say purposely tried to tell you to slow down.
Well, he was telling me to slow down.
Well, I guess with the lack of sleep and everything. Yeah,
Yeah,
probably. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
He was telling you that, yeah, it was a sign, right? It was, for me, it was like I looked at things like my digestion. I think my digestion is also a factor, but it was more than that. It was a lot more than that. So
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're in a good place now, man. That's good. I'm glad you're sleeping. Like, there's a reason why we sleep. We're supposed to sleep a third of our lives. Like, that's how we
yeah,
recover and regenerate.
I know, and it's so. like, I mean, Matt Gallon's going to be on the podcast to talk about sleep, but oh man, is it an underrated thing? Before before your 30s, it's something that it's what, and now it's like I'm actually spending a lot more and more and more time optimizing that and looking at it, because it's it's a big, I feel like it's going to be a big point, an important point in the future that's going to be a lot more and more important, right? So energy management, like when you reach your 40, well, I'm not 40 yet, but I still got a year to go. It's I'm looking now at my next 40 years, instead of
Yeah.
I'm re-entering that phase, which is, I don't know, I feel like an old man. Fuck.
No, man, not old yet.
Luis Diaz will tell us we're old, man.
Well, when you're in your 20s, yeah, of course.
Luis.
Yeah. But
all right, brother. Reaching the 40-minute point, but have a good week, Bren. I'm gonna do my research on more on the food scene in Mexico City when when the border reopens. I'm in.
Okay, well, I'm telling you, if I can get in that easy, you just let me know when you want to go, and I'll meet you there.
I'll bring my Canadian passport. Looks like that's all you have to do. So
yeah, that's pretty much. Yeah.
All right, my man. Have a good week. Have a good week, everybody, and we'll talk to you in a week.
Take care, everyone.
You have just listened to the Done by Noon podcast. If you are interested in hearing more, do not hesitate to subscribe to our channel. Click on the 5 stars or check out our free tools and trainings at donebynoonpodcast.com. Thanks again for listening and stay awesome. We'll see you next time.